In 2015, a man was mopping prison floors while watching Donald Trump descend that golden escalator. That man was Rod Blagojevich, the former governor of Illinois. And he knew at that moment everything was about to change. And now that change has arrived in the form of a full presidential pardon that has Washington insiders in absolute panic. Why? Because Rod Blagojevich isn't just another pardoned politician. He is a living testament to how the Obama machine operated. And tonight, for the first time anywhere, you're going to hear his full story that they desperately tried to bury. And you know what's ironic? While Rod Blagojevich was locked in a cold prison cell for 8 years, the system that put him there stayed warm and cozy. And speaking of staying warm, that's exactly why I want to tell you about this revolutionary portable heater. Just as Trump's pardon is bringing heat to the deep state, this heater brings warmth to any room instantly. Don't let the establishment freeze you out like they did Rod. Visit StayWarmNow.com and get 60% off this incredible device. Stay warm while watching the swamp sweat. That's StayWarmNow.com. Okay, so the news of the full pardon, it happened about less than 24 hours ago. And this is the moment that President Trump signed the full presidential pardon. And dude, I've got some stuff lined up for you that's going to blow your mind. So watch this.
Next, we have a full and unconditional pardon for former Governor Rod Blagojevich of the state of Illinois.
Good. It's my honor to do it. I've watched him. He was set up by a lot of bad people, some of the same people that I had to deal with. He wasn't quite as successful, but he had somebody that saw what was going on. I didn't know him other than I believe he was on The Apprentice for a little while. He was just a very nice person. He had a fantastic wife. She fought like hell to get him out. He was given a sentence of like 18 years. And it was a sort of a terrible injustice. They just were after him. They go after a lot of people. These are bad people, the other side. So I think he's just a very fine person. And this shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have happened to him. And let him have a normal life and let him go out and do what he has to do. So I'm signing this as a full pardon. Rod Blagojevich.
Mr. President, are you considering him for ambassador to Serbia?
No, but I would. I mean, he's now cleaner than anybody in this room. He got a pardon. He's cleaner than anybody in the room. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that was the moment that history was made. And then last night, he gave a press conference. Here is a moment from that outside of his home. Now, when his prison sentence was commuted, I was there at his house when he came out and gave a press conference. In fact, I was in the room at Trump Tower when Donald Trump, years ago, he took the temperature in the room and he asked everybody, do you think that I should pardon Rod Blagojevich? And I immediately jumped out of my seat and I said, yes, pardon Rod Blagojevich. There's, of course, noticeable groans from the entrenched GOP swamp members that were still in the room with us. But when I did that, it created a wave of support through that room. President Trump then went ahead and commuted the sentence, and I was honored to be able to interview him, his first interview when he got out of prison. We're going to show you some of that in a minute, but first let's go to Rod as his been now completely pardoned.
It was a long, hard. I want to express our deepest and most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for what he's done today, for the full presidential pardon. I think about my relationship with President Trump, and it's really, well, he's always doing things for me, and he never asked me to do anything for him. I had a chance to be on his television show, and then he ended what was a long, hard nightmare. After 2,896 days in prison, nearly 8 years, President Trump pulled me out of there, and now he did this. And all I can tell you is that President Trump is a man who, when he sees things that are wrong, he rights them and puts an end to them. And Patty and I, and Amy and Annie, will always be grateful to President Trump and never, ever forget his kindness to us.
Oh, yeah. So the other day, national heavyweight The conservative caucus energizes grassroots to a sold-out crowd ready to flip Illinois red. And that is the room just a few days ago that I was in as well with Rod Blagojevich streaming this live for you. Now, this from the Illinois Review. Before I get to some of the other elements, there's now talk that Rod could be an ambassador to Serbia or even running for the mayor of Chicago, or maybe running for Congress or even Senate in the state of Illinois. So Illinois Review posted this thread. President Trump has granted Rod Blagojevich a full and unconditional pardon, erasing his federal convictions. This decisive action corrects a grave injustice and restores Blagojevich's rights as an American citizen. Blagojevich, the former Illinois governor, was convicted in 2011 on charges including attempting to sell Barack Obama's vacated Senate seat. He served 8 years of a 14-year sentence before President Trump commuted his sentence in 2020. Despite his release, Blagojevich's conviction remained until now. With his pardon, President Trump acknowledges the excessive nature of the original sentence and the political motivations that may have influenced the prosecution. It's important to note that the Illinois Senate had previously impeached and removed Blagojevich from office in 2009, barring him from holding any state-level public office in Illinois. This action was separate from his federal conviction. However, the state-level ban does not extend to federal positions. The U.S. Constitution sets the qualifications for federal offices, and state impeachment does not disqualify an individual from serving in federal roles. With his federal conviction pardoned, Blagojevich is now legally eligible to run for U.S. Congress or the U.S. Senate. The Illinois Senate ban cannot prevent him from seeking federal office, as state restrictions do not apply at the federal level. Blagojevich now has the opportunity to serve the public again should he choose to pursue a role in federal government. For more updates and in-depth analysis on this and other political developments, follow the Illinois Review. And yes, we have friends at the Illinois Review. We support their work wholeheartedly. I want to point out, though, because there is this rumor, there's talk of him running for mayor, right? So if he runs for mayor, can he actually do that? Well, yeah, I mean, anyone can run. And if he does, in fact, run, then maybe he'll just challenge the rulings against him in Illinois, right? So, urgent alert from Mila Joy. Trump pardons Blagojevich. Chicago mayoral race just got wild. President Trump has just pardoned former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. It's not a pardon, it's a political resurrection, paving the way for Blagojevich to run for mayor of Chicago. Blagojevich, once ousted in a scandal shook the nation, now has set the stage for a dramatic comeback. Is this the twist Chicago politics needed, or a recipe for chaos? Well, I certainly hope that he does run for office in Illinois. Here is the moment that I'm going to get to some of these really important clips, but let's take a look at how WGN News framed this whole thing.
He spoke a short time.
Tonight, we're hearing from disgraced Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, fully
See, like they right out the gate, disgraced governor, former governor Rod Blagojevich. I mean, they're already setting the tone. I mean, this is how they frame this whole thing. Disgraced. Well, he's not disgraced. He has a full pardon, and we're gonna wait till you hear his own words. Okay, I don't want you to click out. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay here, and I want you to share this. This is very important because it gives us very deep perspective. Okay, but first, let's check out WGN.
pardoned today by President Donald Trump.
And WGN's Brona Tumulty is outside the Blagojevich family home in Ravenswood Manor neighborhood, where he spoke a short time ago to reporters. Brona?
Good evening, guys. The former governor came out of his house tonight smiling, saying having reporters out here was just like the old days. He sang President Trump's praises, saying he found out about the news through a phone call.
I think about my relationship with President Trump, and it's really, well, he's always doing things for me, and he never asked me to do anything for him.
A new twist in a political saga and a clean slate tonight for ex-Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, speaking outside his home, his wife Patty at his side, saying they got a phone call 2 weeks ago from President Donald Trump.
He told me that this is what he was going to do, and so we've known it for a couple of weeks.
The president making good on that promise today with the stroke of a pen, issuing a full pardon after previously commuting Blagojevich's 14-year prison sentence during his first term in office.
It's my honor to do it. I've watched him. He was set up by a lot of bad people, some of the same people that I had to deal with.
The pair became acquainted in 2010 after Blagojevich appeared on and was booted off Trump's reality TV show Celebrity Apprentice. But it was several years before that, in 2002, that Blagojevich rose to the office of governor, even winning re-election before his career came crashing down around him. FBI agents showing up at his door in December 2008, arresting him on a wealth of political corruption charges. Amongst those there that morning, former head of the Chicago FBI, Rob Grant, whom WGN spoke with in 2019.
That denial that I've really done nothing wrong doesn't reflect to me somebody that's accepted responsibility for what they did.
The charges against Blagojevich included trying to shake down a children's hospital CEO for campaign contributions and an effort made to sell Barack Obama's old Senate seat after he was elected to the White House. His brazenness even recorded on federal wiretaps.
I've got this thing, and it's golden. And I'm just not giving it up for nothing. That I'm innocent of any and all of these allegations.
The Illinois General Assembly impeached Blagojevich and ousted him from office in 2009, but it took 2 trials to convict him. The first jury was hung, but he was eventually found guilty in 2011, serving 8 years of his sentence before Trump's commutation.
After 2,896 days in prison, nearly 8 years, President Trump pulled me out of there, and now he did this. And all I can tell you is that President Trump is a man who, when he sees things that are wrong, he writes them and puts an end to them.
Now, rumours are swirling about a potential new post as U.S. ambassador to Serbia, following a meeting between Blagojevich and the Serbian president just days ago.
I'm not going into foreign affairs. Are you crazy?
When pushed further, though, he declined multiple times to comment on whether he's been offered that role or expects to be, but used the moment to reiterate his innocence.
I never, ever wavered in my determination to prove to the people of Illinois and anybody else who's listening that I broke no laws, crossed no lines, never took a penny.
So what is next? Well, Blagojevich did tell us he is writing a book about his experiences and will continue doing some consulting work on the side. He did rule out running for public office again, though in spite of the pardon, he would still be barred from doing at the state level, but he has always been eligible to run on the federal side. We're live tonight at Ravenswood Manor. Bronagh Thomas.
Okay, so there's so much more. Here's the photo of me and Rod just a few days ago at that event, standing room only, and Rod calls himself a Trumpocrat. Yeah. And so I know you guys want to see this, and we got some clips here from his appearance on Tucker Carlson and on Joe Rogan. But you know what? Before he ever was on any of those shows, he was right here on the Next News Network. Why? Because I stood up and I spoke out. Mark Vargas called me up. He said, we're going to connect you with the Wall Street Journal. He's like, we need to get a quote from you. And guess what? Rod's going to go on your show when he gets out. You're going to be the first. And I was like, hell yeah. So we got the clip. This is when he was on my show, and Angie was right here, sitting right across from this desk. I got a couple great clips. Don't go anywhere. Watch the stuff and soak it in. This is deep, deep knowledge.
The big charge.
President Trump commuted your sentence, calling that 14-year sentence ridiculous.
They sent me to prison for 14 years because they're trying to cover up the truth, and they're still doing that. But
You mentioned these parallels between yourself and President Trump, and can you elaborate on that? Like, you were sort of the test case for these guys.
I do think that. I believe that very much, because as I watched from prison what they were doing to President Trump, it was what Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again. It was also familiar to me. Okay, it starts out with the big charge, and the clever labeling of it, Russian collusion, sale of the Senate seat, and then when the general public, they don't understand a lot of the routine practices in our business. That's understandable. So what these people will do is they'll take some of these things and they'll use the media, and that's certainly been the case against President Trump and with the mainstream media, and particularly with some of the more dishonest places like CNN and MSNBC, and they'll follow a narrative that they're being fed by the prosecutors. So John Cass, for example, is a total lackey for those U.S. attorneys down at 219 Dearborn. And the media here, they have to be careful because it's a barter system with how the media works. because they have these connections with the prosecutor's office, and they've got to, as a practical business decision, they've got to pursue the false narrative that these people want them to pursue. Otherwise, they're fearful they'll lose access to these people in the other cases that might actually be real, because it's a business with these media outlets. And unfortunately for our democracy, many of them have forgotten what their responsibility is as the fourth estate. In other words, they're the ones who are supposed to keep checks and balances on all the power centers in our society so that the truth can come out, and sunshine being the best disinfectant. That's what they're supposed to do, but they don't want to solve problems. They want to keep the problem out there so they keep the people needing them. Now you got this guy, businessman, hugely successful in business and in entertainment, and everything he touches, Trump has the Midas touch. It's among the reasons why I truly believed he was going to win when he announced. Then he comes to Washington, and he's actually doing something, are you ready for this? That shocks the political establishment.
What's that?
Keeping his promises. Keeping his promises to the people.
Oh, yeah.
It is shocking to them because they think it's all part of the skills that you have as a politician. Like Michael Jordan had such a wonderful jump shot, and he was so good. And Jordan could play great defense, and he had all aspects to his game. These politicians look at these skills, the ability to be full of crap, okay, the ability to make promises you have no intention of keeping, the ability to change positions. Nancy Pelosi could be against the impeachment of President Clinton because it's setting a dangerous precedent, and you're criminalizing and using the impeachment process, which is supposed to be very rare, for political purposes, and yet she can flip-flop, as can Schumer and a whole bunch of others.
Look at Nadler, the stuff that Nadler was saying.
Jerry Nadler, who I was in Congress with together, we were all against impeaching Clinton for what he did. It was wrong and terrible, but was that an impeachable offense? Weedy thought it wasn't. How could that standard then be different when they then use it against President Trump? See, they have the ability to just flip-flop without any sense of conviction or principles. And then they, amongst themselves, Chuck Schumer, another one, they like to brag about, frankly, Senator Durbin, a total professional politician. He's good at it, but he's a total professional politician. They don't want to solve problems. And then when they're amongst themselves, they laugh about how, are you ready for this? They laugh about how their game is good. Look at me. I was duplicitous today. I flip-flopped on something that just a few short years ago I took another position on. And so the president is getting all the pushback he gets because he's actually keeping his word to the people. He's doing the things he said he was going to do.
President. Oh, that's just the beginning, friends. That's just the beginning. Now, I can go to Tucker, I can go to Rogan, but hey, come on, guys. We got to go to the next news network first, right? Here is more. This is Blago dropping truth bombs on the Russia collusion hoax.
President of the United States, because if you really think about the whole Russian collusion thing, the whole thing was ridiculous, that anybody would even remotely think it was wrong. And this Ukrainian call, that the President of the United States has a constitutional obligation, if he knows or she knows that there may be corruption, to look into it. And to not look into it is to fail to do his or her duty. So when the president asks Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, would he look into this? Because there's probable cause to think that there's something that is not fishy when it comes to your son's, making a whole bunch of money in Ukraine, and Vice President Biden is bragging about using his leverage of $1 billion in American taxpayer money to have a prosecutor in Ukraine fired who's looking into the company that his son works at. Now that's possible corruption. That needs to be investigated and looked into. And yet again, this just shows you what's going on with our country today and how the weaponization of the prosecutors for political purposes, it isn't just about putting somebody like me in prison for 8 years. This issue is much larger than that. Not even about as much about taking a president out, which is horrific, but it's about all the people, we the people, losing our power to decide who our leaders are through free elections. This is about the right of self-government, and these unelected bureaucrats with fancy law degrees are a direct threat to our freedoms as Americans, and Americans need to wake up and fight against this and demand that the necessary reforms are put in place so these people can be held accountable.
And that's what's happening right now. I mean, he is foreshadowing a lot of what we're seeing today. And that's what's so cool about being able to talk about this. I mean, here, show you this. Rod Blagojevich, torching the swamp, CNN, fake news.
Over the years, well, not the recent years, but before I was away, I would do a lot of shows, radio, television, maybe a couple of podcasts, but never have I been treated so well with such a wonderful welcome. You provide fruit plates. You provide even ice cream if you choose.
We heard you like ice cream.
Yes, but not this early. But but they don't give you this on CNN. They just give you fake news.
Oh yeah, CNN. Angie and I watched that interview with Anderson Cooper, and we were actually quite disgusted at the way he treated you. What happened there?
Well, I think it was, frankly, they're so filled with hatred towards President Trump that anything President Trump does, they're against. And so I think he was venting against me because of his animosity towards President Trump. And that's what they do. And that's unfortunate because they're doing a disservice to the public and their viewers. Because if they're so filled with hate, and hate is toxic.
Hate is toxic. Agreed.
You're not going to do the thing that's right, and you're going to misinform your viewers and, frankly, not keep the trust with them, because there's so much that happens on CNN that is just flat out wrong. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're losing to the Home and Garden Channel, Nickelodeon, I believe. So what I like to say is more people like to watch grass grow on the Home and Garden Channel than watch Anderson Cooper beat up Rod Blagojevich. So don't worry, not many people saw it. Nobody was watching.
It didn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm used to it, and I'm happy to take on all comers.
Absolutely.
I have the truth on my side, and I'm eager to get it out.
Amen. Amen to that. You know, there was a 5-year investigation, and it came to an abrupt end when the Justice Department leaked information to the Tribune in order to avoid having to arrest Obama's presidential election campaign co-chair Jesse Jackson Jr. for trying to buy Obama's Senate seat. Buy it. I mean, we can talk about that, exactly what the definition of buy is, and what's the price tag? Is it a real price tag? Is it physical? Is it financial? Is it, some political favors? Whatever. We'll talk about that. But President Trump commuted your sentence last month, calling that 14-year sentence ridiculous. Now, I was in the room when it all went down at Trump Tower, when he took the temperature in the room, and it was really remarkable. But getting into politics, you can expect to make friends and enemies. Now, I was doing some Google searching. There's a lot of people that don't like you. They don't like you, man. Even neocon Meghan McCain. I'm no fan of Meghan McCain. She supports the conservatives angle now and again, but I don't like her. She called you the swampiest creature in the world. John Cass wrote in the Chicago Tribune of the former Chicago Public Schools CEO who was watching that press conference that you gave outside your house. Now, I was there. I was actually standing right behind you. And,
wow.
Yeah, I was right there. He said he was watching, and he says there was no remorse in you. Now, I was physically maybe 2 feet behind you, and I could really feel the emotion that was coming off of you, coming off your wife. And so I think he's completely wrong there. But the Tribune says, or Cass from the Tribune says, 12 million people of Illinois are victims of Blagojevich. Do you have any remorse or regrets of any of your dealings as governor?
Well, I naturally have regrets. Certain things that I could have done better. Certain things that I didn't do enough for example, criminal justice reform. I could have done so much more in that area. I just didn't know, and I was like most people. I trusted the system, and I believed I frankly believed that the federal prosecutors were honorable and decent, and they don't bring fake cases against people. And I still believe most of them are, all of that. They're honorable and decent, but there is a handful of some of the same players using the same playbook. It's Fitzgerald and Comey, Mueller, and people like that, who've criminalized routine political practices for political purposes and for financial gain, because when they can get a big target like a governor or a president, they go into law firms and become partners and make millions of dollars. That's what's happened with the prosecutors. In my case, Fitzgerald's a partner in a law firm, I'm told, making all kinds of money. In fact, he's so morally bankrupt that his law firm, now that he's in the private sector, represented Michigan State University, and they whitewashed the investigation against that doctor that was abusing those young girls. So, he's taken that dishonesty that he used as a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor, and now moved it into the private sector as a partner in a law firm to do the same kind of thing. Over the years, I've won.
Okay, we got some more clips to get to. Here is Blago on Tucker Carlson saying as soon as he was elected senator, Obama asked someone close to Rod to call hospitals.
Half of Michelle, personal, but okay, and I was happy to be helpful. But he's one of the more selfish people in politics on a one-on-one level. And he's not pure like the driven snow in the sense of his ethics or morality. And, Tony Resco's the guy who bought this lot next to Obama's home. And one of the things I write about in my book is that when I was governor first, and then Barack won in 2004, I was asked to make a phone call on behalf of Michelle Obama, because as soon as he won the Senate race, she wanted a job either at Northwestern University or the University of Chicago hospitals for $200,000 to $300,000 a year, the wife of the new senator. And I was asked, would you call? And
was she specific about how much she wanted?
Yeah. And
she was specific about salary?
Yeah. And I think Northwestern, we should double check this, but I think my recollection is good. I think Northwestern was willing to pay $200,000 to hire her. This is the wife of the new U.S. senator, and federal money for, Medicaid and Medicare, things like that. And then they got a better offer at the University of Chicago, which is in Hyde Park, where they're from, $300,000, and she ended up working there. And I called to help, because you help people in politics, and the guy's wife wants a job, I'll make a phone call. He didn't get it. She didn't get it because of me, but it didn't hurt to have the governor call and say, hey.
Second Obama gets elected, Michelle says, I want a job at one of two hospitals for between $200,000 and $300,000.
That's correct. Yeah, and she ended up working at the University of Chicago Hospital. I'm almost certain $300,000 a year. So, but okay. And I was
See how this works? You see how this works? I've got some more clips here, but in case you missed it, okay, this is a funny story about how he met Donald Trump in an elevator. This is really good. Listen to this.
So they're commandeering a freight elevator, and I look ahead and I see an extremely familiar face, Donald Trump, in that freight elevator in December 2003. Now, this is 6 years before I do Celebrity Apprentice. And he's standing next to this beautiful woman with this jet black hair, very tall, obviously an international model. And, my first thought, being a man, was along the lines of that beautiful woman he was with, and thinking, man, you got to love this Donald Trump. And then I see my guys kicking him out of the elevator, and her. And he complies because they're the police. So he stands outside the elevator, and she does too. And they're holding it open for me. I walk in, and there I am, 12 years later in prison, looking at Melania and saying she lightened her hair. He married, that was Melania. And then I thought, those guys that worked for me kicked her and him out of that freight elevator. Thank God I invited them in to take a ride, because if that backstabbing, selfish, sellout Obama ultimately sells me out for starting what I went to prison for and passes me by, which he ultimately did, my last line of defense, if I can't get justice in the courts, is Donald Trump. And sure enough, right? It ended up. He did it. Well, I didn't do it. He didn't do it. They did to me at the AAA level, to a Democratic governor, what they thought they can get away with doing to a Republican candidate for president at the major league level. That's what's happening in America today. That's exactly what's happening in America today. And when Jim talks about the threat to freedom, that's what's at stake. Freedom, and the gift of freedom is fragile. I've learned hard lessons about that. I never could imagine that prosecutors, the best and the brightest, who go to the best schools, could be so rotten and dirty and corrupt and dishonest, or that judges could be that way too. Yeah, I never knew that. But there was one area that knew it. And when all that stuff was coming down on me, and you got all that media around your house every single day, and you're doing the best you can to say, man, I didn't do it. I'm on every show I can get on. Thank goodness I was on those shows, because Trump saw me on the David Letterman show. So they're commandeering a...
Trump saw him on the David Letterman show. I mean, this is how far back this goes. Okay, we have some more. Okay, this is the freight elevator story. Okay, this is the story about him mopping the floors and seeing Trump.
There is a deep state. Donald Trump is right when he talks about that. And he is so courageous and so strong and so patriotic on how he's willing to put himself out there and fight that deep state. So I'm for him largely because of that. Had he passed me by, I'd have limped home 4 years after Mark and President Trump helped me come home, I'd have still been for him. I was for him when I was in prison watching him and watching some of this go down when it all happened. In fact, I'll tell you a story. And Cash, you'll appreciate this. I'm doing my job. You know, they make us have jobs in prison. And I had a variety of different jobs. By the way, that lieutenant who told you they didn't want you guys to eat, that's a merciful people because the food in prison sucks. No, this is how it is. It's a very segregated world, by the way, by design. And I write about this in a book that I'm writing, which is a real pain in the ass because I'm reliving those experiences and I'm having these recurring dreams that I'm still there. In fact, I had one the other night that I was in a new camp. They sent me to a different camp. They first put me in a higher prison in real life. Then when you behave well and you're under 10 years of your sentence, then you get to go to the camp, which is not as hard as the prison behind the razor wire. I'm the only governor in American history who went from a 50,000 square foot governor's mansion to a 6 foot by 8 foot prison cell. Hey. And anyway, when I got out of there, and it was 2015, and I'm in the camp and I'm sweeping floors, I look up to the television, CNN, where all the black guys watch television. And here's Donald Trump coming down an escalator with this beautiful woman with chestnut colored hair. And I look at that, but I can't hear it because you got to have headphones on to be able to hear the television. And I had my headphones on to music to help me do my jobs, mopping floors. And so I decided to see what was going on because I knew Trump years before. I'd been on Celebrity Apprentice. Anybody remember that? That you see me on? Remember that? He almost always gets it right, doesn't he? He was so right to fucking fire me. Wasn't he? So right. I couldn't open a computer. Joan Rivers was haranguing me for serving her a hamburger that was cold. Nice woman, by the way. But who'd have thought when I was on that show, and they filmed that in October 2009, about 10 months after I'd been arrested, who'd have thought then that when he fires me, that he'd be the President of the United States? All those years later, I'd be mopping floors in prison, and I'd look up and I'd see him coming down the escalator with this beautiful woman with chestnut brown hair. And my first thought is, holy cow, he married her. There is a
man, this guy, he has a way, and I love hearing him talk. It's such a delight to interview him. Okay, we've got another clip here. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Here is more from the podcast.
Unless you have I can't possibly lose. They sent me to prison for things that are legal and political and routine. I never took a dime. This is not about personal corruption. It's all politics. And then I would say, all I need is the appellate court to see that the way they convicted me was using an unlawful standard, that the case, McCormick versus United States, and it's there for any of your listeners and viewers to see, 1991 case that defines where the line is. And the line is, unless you have evidence of an express promise or threat, then it's just routine politics. So there was never that. They don't allege that. So the way they convicted me was they misled the jury. They lied to the jury with fake jury instructions by moving the line and said that if I have conversations and seek campaign contributions from anyone that might benefit from the actions of me as governor, think about this, that if that standard were applied to everybody in politics, every senator who votes for a bill that supports the pharmaceutical industry and then gets campaign contributions from them, they'd be thrown in prison. That Washington establishment, this is what they want President Trump to do, and he won't do it. So, yes, it would be better if there's a better system. But under the current rules, you should play by those rules. I stayed within the lines. If they used that standard against others, they'd all be in prison. Now, having said that, why didn't they want me out? Because I think that they know what the truth is, and they understand that, I think I can speak to a lot of the things that are truly wrong in Illinois politics. Our politics in Chicago and Illinois is corrupt and has been for generations. There's a way of doing business that's corrupt. Some of it's illegal. A lot of it's legal corruption. What do I mean by that? They're just full of crap when they talk about the things they care about that they're going to do for people, and they don't do it. It's all a game. I can't possibly...
It's all a game. And he is exposing the game. Donald Trump giving him a full presidential pardon. Let's see, we've got, I don't think I'm going to play the Rogan clips. But I've got, let's see, we got that swamp. We've got this one. The freight elevator, the CNN story, moving the goalposts. We got that. Okay, I thought I had another one in here. It's the Drake Hotel. Okay, just bear with me, folks. Bear with me here. Okay. Jim Pfaff, he is the one with the conservative caucus. He's the one who organized that that event at the Drake Hotel 11 hours ago. He said Rod Blagojevich was wrongfully prosecuted by the Obama administration because he didn't do what Obama demanded. This has been a long nightmare for Rod and his family. Now it's finally resolved. Congratulations, Rod. Thank you, President Trump. Here's Rod singing. Here's Mark Wehrmuller, a friend of mine. This is Rod singing Jailhouse Rock, a surprise appearance by the former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich on stage singing at the Taste of Elmwood Park. Yes, singing Jailhouse Rock. How ironic, right? Okay, I think I do have another. I thought I had another clip in here. I had so many clips for you guys set up. I thought I had more. Let me just check my action, because I've got so much stuff that I've posted. It's like it gets lost sometimes, and sometimes these feeds don't always load correctly. The swamp, truth bombs, Russia collusion. Okay, maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. Okay, well, okay, all right, fine. All right, well, I appreciate you guys sticking through me with this here. You guys want to see this Rogan clip? Here he is talking about thanking Joe Rogan for creating a space that allows Americans to express the right to free speech. Yeah. So here's more from that event. DJT 2024. Rod Blagojevich is one of the most intelligent and principled individuals I know. His resilience and sharp mind are undeniable. I have no doubt that President Trump will grant him a full pardon, which is what happened. And here, this was at the dinner we had. There's Rod. I was sitting a few seats over. Here is Mark and Jim Pfaff and Janelle, Jackie, and Rod. That's at the Drake Hotel.
And if you're just pause for a moment, imagine you're Donald Trump. You're from New York City.
This looks like a video from when they were at the. That was it. I think the MAGA rally in Washington, Madison Square Garden. I was there too. And here is Blago again with Janelle, and I think this is one of Blago's best friends. So really great news for Blagojevich. Amazing stuff. And it's all coming out. They're so terrified of his full pardon, because if he returns to public office, I mean, he knows where the bodies are buried. That's the whole point. He knows how the swamp operates. He knows what Barack Obama is capable of. He was the test case. He's said this time and time again. So, Rod Blagojevich getting a full pardon, and we are just excited for it. So we watched something extraordinary. A man who spent nearly 3,000 days behind bars, stepping into freedom and immediately exposing the corrupt system that imprisoned him. Blagojevich's revelation about Obama's early Chicago dealings isn't a historical footnote. It's a blueprint of how the political machine operates. From the freight elevator at Trump Tower to the prison floor where he watched Trump announce his candidacy, the story isn't about just redemption. It's about the exposure of systemic corruption. So here's what everybody should be asking tonight. If the Obama administration could successfully imprison a sitting governor for what Blagojevich calls routine politics, what other political prisoners might be sitting in cells right now? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and get your exclusive Mag Avengers merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, because the truth can't be imprisoned.